Does homeownership actually build wealth? Often when I talk to people about buying a home, I hear two takes. One group says it was one of the best things I ever did. The other, biggest mistake of my life. Same market, two completely different outcomes. It makes you wonder, if buying a home is part of the American dream, then why does it feel more like a gamble than a guarantee? I've met people who bought a house and watched it climb faster than anything they ever owned. I've also met people who bought the same year and ended up selling for less than they paid. It's not always about the market. Sometimes it's about when they bought, and sometimes it's about how they bought, and sometimes it's just life. Job changes, divorce, things that you can't foresee. Here's another thing I've noticed. When someone says real estate made me rich, they usually leave out the fact that they had money first. It's like meeting someone wearing a $30,000 Rolex and assuming that's how they made their fortune. The watch might hold value or even go up, but that's not the reason that they had money. The house comes after wealth, not before. So why do wealthy people who could rent forever still choose to own? Well, it usually comes down to three big reasons that work together: stability, tax perks, and leverage. First is stability. It's great having no landlord to answer to, no surprise rent hikes, and no risk of being forced to move. Second is tax perks. They can deduct mortgage, interest, and property taxes, and when they sell, they often qualify for capital gains exemptions that save them big. Third is leverage. They can use the bank's money to control a large asset that, over time, usually goes up faster in value than the mortgage or inflation. In other words, they didn't get rich from the house, they used the house as a tool to grow and protect their wealth they already had. Now, for most people, housing is the biggest bill they'll ever have. The question isn't, should I pay a mortgage? It's, whose mortgage am I paying? Rent is gone forever, but if you own, part of that monthly payment comes back to you in equity, like a forced savings account. And while your granite countertops might not be worth more in 10 years, the land under your house often is. Cities grow, neighborhoods change, scarcity creeps in. But here's the catch. All of this only works if you stay long enough. I've also seen the flip side. People who buy more house than they can afford, then they skip repairs and the problem explodes. Or they sell too fast and they lose money on fees. According to Harvard's Joint Center for Housing Studies, over a quarter of recent sellers had to move for unexpected reasons: divorce, job loss, illness. And when life hits you fast, a house can turn from an asset into an anchor quick. Here's the truth. Homeownership rarely makes you wealthy overnight. It is expensive upfront. Down payments, fees, maintenance, and unless you rent it out, it doesn't give you monthly income. The wealth shows up later after years of paying down the loan, holding the property while the land appreciates, and selling when timing works in your favor. Now, it's not the engine of your wealth, it's a piston in a bigger machine. If you skip the other parts, stable income, savings, and a plan, the house alone won't save you. In fact, it'll often sink you. Here are 3 times I've seen people buy smart. They buy within their means, they stay long enough to let equity build, and they keep the property in good shape. Here are 3 times I've seen people screw it up. They treat their house as their only investment, they count on their home being the forever home, and don't have a plan when they unexpectedly have to move, and lastly, they move too frequently so they can't absorb the transaction cost of buying and selling. Now, many people say that the whole idea of buying a house to live in is a scam. Names like Grant Cardone or Robert Kiyosaki come up a lot. They'll tell you that renting is smarter and owning your house is a mistake. But stop and think about it for a second. How do they actually make their money? Well, they sell courses and get investors for their rental properties. And every home you buy for yourself is one less house that they can profit from. And as Upton St. Clair put it, it is difficult to get a man to understand something when his salary depends upon him not understanding it. Are they totally wrong? Well, no. If you're young and single and love the freedom to move anywhere, renting can be cheaper and simpler. But life has a way of changing. Start a family and renting gets expensive fast. You need space, stability, and a landlord who can't jack up your rent just because they know you won't move. Here's the truth. The value of home ownership often rises with household size, and it's not just about the money. It's about having control over where and how you live, the freedom to build a life without waiting for someone else's permission. I've seen homeownership change lives for the better and for the worse, and the difference is rarely luck. It's timing, planning, and using your home as part of a bigger strategy. If you buy smart, a home can give you stability, control, and a push to build wealth over time. And if you buy it wrong, it can beat you up quick. In the end, the American dream isn't the house. It's the freedom to build wealth, and a house can help. Subscribe for more tips.